Hey Moira, this is your brother. Hey Moira, this is your brother. You're a psychopath, I'm not. You're a psychopath, I'm not. I'm a lawyer, you're not. I'm a, uh, God, I'm just tickled pink right now, of what I'm about to say. Look, Moira, here's the thing. Boston is a fucking backwater. Boston, Massachusetts is a backwater filled with bumpkins and ignorant provincial, pedantic, parochial idiots who just don't understand how life works. New York City is tough, and the first time I went to New York City, I love the Red Sox, but I tell you, these people are a bunch of fucking bumpkins. People in Massachusetts are a bunch of fucking bumpkins. I'm so sorry to talk that way about my city of birth, but these people are a bunch of obtuse bumpkins. I moved to New York City. Well, we moved to New York City. The first time we went to New York City, you might remember, you were 13 and I was like 9 when you were dancing at the Joffrey. Yeah, that was my first exposure to New York City and all the madness of New York City. And then Dad started working at AMBAC, and we lived in and around the New York City area from the time I was about, from the time I was about 12 until we moved up here when I was 28 or 29. So, it's just a matter of statistics. New York City has about 30 million people in it, 15 to, well, it's ever growing and growing, depending how big you measure the tri-state area, New Jersey, Connecticut, New York. It's a lot of people. It's like 50 million, 100, depending how far out you draw the circle around New York City. There's 100 million, I haven't done the population, I haven't looked at the population numbers recently, but it's big. Which means it's like 50 million. I'll look it up later and I'll put it in a comment on this video on YouTube. Let's say it's easily over 50 million people. Boston, the greater Boston area is about 1.5 million people. That means there's 30 times more likely for you to run into certain kinds of criminals in the New York City area. That's why the cops are tougher in New York. And the people are more sophisticated. It's just a matter of statistics. They run into things more often because there's just more people. Okay? So I dealt with, people who are on the fringes of the Italian mafia a number of times before I graduated law school. Angelo Nicoletta, Dennis DiPola, Ron Ferrarini, Jerry Infantino, who I went to high school with, Sam and Max Wonderly's father, who, according to Mom, was killed execution style by the Italian mafia over something at Pathmark having to do with recycling and carting. The RPM Garage, they were mobbed up. Teresa Nitti, there was a maid, Italian mafia type, at Teresa Nitti's wedding, Dad's secretary. So, these idiots, they're more sneaky in greater Boston, but the fact that these people are mobsters, it's absolutely clear. And they think they're covering up and they can't, and here's why. It's called pattern evidence. It's called pattern evidence, Moira. In law school in New York, you learn about this case, People versus Molyneux. And there's a federal rule of evidence about this, by the way. It's called pattern evidence. I can't remember the number. I'll look it up and I'll put it in a comment when I put this video on YouTube. There's also this rule of evidence called consciousness of guilt. Now, this is why I started this video. It took me 4.5 minutes to get down to the topic of this video, but let's just talk about it. The topic of this video should be entitled Pattern Evidence under federal law, and under state law, it's like People versus Molyneux in the state of New York. And consciousness of guilt evidence. Now, I'm going to keep her name out of it, but the Tembelopouloses have a youngest daughter, and I have alleged that they are abusing her in some way, shape, or form. I'm not going to specify in this video. There's now, and let's just say by the, when the Tembeopoulos girls come and go, and the youngest one's 22 and doesn't appear to have a job. I finally saw her in a work uniform the day before yesterday or whatever. They don't appear to have jobs, and they're in their 20s. And I don't think they've attended college or completed college. And from when they come and go at night, and here comes the mobster to intimidate me, as if they know what's going on with me. See, just the presence of a person can be intimidating. I'm not going to put him on film, but just a person's presence can be intimidating, especially when that person's a suspected mobster and a murderer. See, when someone is suspected of murder, their very presence can be an intimidating act, Moira, right? So there's a lot of people in this neighborhood, Moira, who have no visible means of income, Barbara Toscano and Rich Bebo, and they live in houses that require $54,000 a year or more for taxes, Moira. That's called probable cause, Moira. When somebody has no visible means of income and they're paying, 50 some odd thousands of dollars a year in taxes on houses like Barbara Toscano or Rich Bebo, that's called probable cause that they're some sort of organized criminal. So anyways, let's get back to consciousness of guilt evidence. See, there's this big birthday party sign, Moira, on the front of the Tembeopoulos house. And they've never thrown a celebration for that child before in the last 22 years. And I have alleged that she's being abused. This is called consciousness of guilt evidence. When a person doesn't do anything for a child for 22 years, and then suddenly after being accused of abusing the child, throws a big showy celebration for the child, that's consciousness of guilt, because they're trying to make it seem that they care about the child when in fact they don't. You understand, Moira? It's like paying for something for somebody after you've neglected them for 22 years. That's called consciousness of guilt under the law, or the rules of evidence in court. So this big showy thing here for the big birthday party, it's glaring consciousness of guilt. Moira. Now there's the pattern evidence of all the dead bodies in Newton. Let's move on from consciousness of guilt evidence, Moira, to pattern evidence. First of all, old ladies in nursing homes and dead people their money seems to always find its way to the Tembeopoulos family. Ms. Schaefer, Mr. Abdel Salam, and of course Dad. I haven't found that money yet, but I'm sure I'll find how you move that money. That's called pattern evidence. Seti Warren is dead. Captain William Spaulding of the Newton PD is dead, and Jay Saccone is dead. And they all died in separate years, but they all died in the first week of November. That's called pattern evidence under federal rules of evidence and under People versus Molyneux, Moira. That there are homicides being committed with poison in Newton. And there's a trail of ruined lives behind you, Moira. Me, Dad, who was murdered, and Larry's life is ruined, and Liam's life is not doing so great because he appears to have been poisoned with something to stunt his growth when he was a young boy. Harley Manning's his career didn't do too well. And so that's a trail of ruined lives behind you, Moira. That's pattern evidence. Dad, me, Larry, your unborn child, I forgot that one, and Liam, right? So you people, you are a danger to the community. Now let's go over Mom. There's a pattern of wrecked and ruined lives behind Mom. Her father died in a suspicious car accident where the other guy walked away, according to Mom. Dean Kumpf died of cancer. Nikki Bebo died of cancer. Who else? Ed Shanahan died of a heart attack. Cancer. So we've got Ed Shanahan, Dean Kumpf, and Nikki Bebo. All neighbors of Mom that died of either cancer or heart attacks. And Mom took me on this really creepy visit to Dean Kumpf's grave. Mom took me on this really creepy visit to Dean Kumpf's grave. And Mom hovered over Dean Kumpf like an angel of death while Dean Kumpf was dying. It was extremely creepy. And Mom and Dean were not close friends. So what you got here is a group of people who are associated with the Italian mafia in Greater Boston. I suspect what the reason Mom's father, James Edward Birmingham, moved her all the way out and the family all the way out to Fitchburg was that at some point in Eddie Birmingham's life, he realized his daughter was a monster. And the rest of the Birmingham family, the Aherns, everyone else, they all live in West Roxbury and JP and Roslindale. Why do all the Birminghams from the Birmingham family live in West Roxbury, Roslindale, and JP, Jamaica Plain, for those of you that aren't from Greater Boston? And Eddie Birmingham moves his daughter all the way out to Fitchburg. Now, they were young when they moved out. She was young when they moved her out there. But the reason they stayed out there, I suspect, is because Mom was dangerous. And he wanted to keep her away from the rest of the family. And Mom has said to me that her mother, her grandmother, Mary Finn Birmingham, kicked her out of the family. So, Moira, it may seem like I'm jumping around a lot here, but the theme here is pattern evidence, consciousness of guilt evidence, and the Italian mafia in Greater Boston. And let's finish up with a big piece of consciousness of guilt evidence. You and Mom have been stonewalling me, and I do mean stonewalling me, since Dad died. By stonewalling, I mean not talking to me about what happened with Dad's death. You didn't tell me his cause of death, Moira. You never sat down with me and explained to me what was going on with Dad's will, even though you're not even a college graduate. You obtained your college degree by fraud. I'm a lawyer. I took trust in estates. I understand trust in estates far better than you do. I'm a licensed attorney who's been in front of the highest court in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and you became the manager of Dad's will when you don't even live in the state? And then you don't talk to me for 2 years? You talked to me a few times, but for the most part, you've stonewalled me since Dad died about everything. You never sat down with me and explained to me Dad's will. You called the police on me instead of showing me Dad's new will in Dartmouth in the summer of 2024. That's called stonewalling, Moira. And stonewalling under circumstances where $20 million is gone poof into a will that's invalid on its face, in my opinion, with a signature, at least the signature I've seen, is not Dad's signature. That's more than probable cause that a number of very serious crimes have happened because of the consciousness of guilt evidence and the other evidence. So, Moira, I'm going to sum up here with, I know I've jumped around a lot with the facts, but the bottom line is this. There is a Mount Everest-sized amount of evidence of pattern evidence and consciousness of guilt evidence having to do with Dad's death and the missing money, the money in his estate, and what has happened in my life and Dad's life before the end of his life over the last, say, 15 years. There is a mountain of pattern evidence and consciousness of guilt evidence that could easily, if I were allowed, if I were a prosecutor and if I were not me, I could easily indict all of you and convict you all of conspiracy to commit several crimes. Murder for profit, murder for hire, will fraud, larceny of a motor vehicle, animal cruelty, elder abuse, poisoning. There's a mountain of evidence here, Moira. Okay? And District Attorney Marion Ryan isn't doing shit about it. But I've met Marion Ryan. She's a fucking idiot. So, and the state police have their thumb up their ass. And the Newton police are working for the Italian mafia. So Massachusetts is, no offense, Massachusetts is a cesspool run by the Italian mafia. They get whatever they want. Now, let's get down to the really crazy part, which isn't really crazy given where Dad worked when we were kids. Syracuse Research Corporation. Dad worked for Syracuse Research Corporation from 1976 to 1980. Because of the nature of the work at Syracuse Research Corporation, Dad definitely had a security clearance. We never could go to Dad's desk. Remember the front door of SRC Inc.? Yeah, Syracuse Research Corporation. You had to get buzzed in, and we never saw Dad's desk, his office at CERC, because it was a classified facility. So here's the thing. Dad had a security clearance he never even told us about. Dad, he may have told you, because you obviously work for the CIA, but I was recruited by the CIA in 2009, but I never applied for work because they just kill too many people. They murder too many people. And I can't work for an organization that does that in good conscience. I'll give them information if it will protect our country, but I'm not going to work for them and help them. I'm not going to be ordered to help kill someone. I would have to refuse the order and I get fired, or worse. Here's the point. Dad definitely worked for the intelligence community, and he's not an engineer, so the only thing at CERC he could have been doing was technology transfer and risk assessment, which is counterintelligence, preventing our enemies from stealing our technology. It's the only thing Dad could have been doing at SRC Inc. Because he's not an engineer. That's a lot of what's done at SRC Inc. is engineering. Dad was not an engineer. And his specialty and his research topic in his PhD, his dissertation was technology transfer. And they do risk assessment at SRC Inc. And a shiteload, a mountain, an Everest-sized mountain, another Everest-sized mountain of highly classified military technology is developed and manufactured in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And the Chinese have a ton of military technology that is the military technology of the United States of America. You know what this means? And most of it is only primarily manufactured in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. You know what this means? This means that some very well-organized criminal group is stealing highly classified military technology and selling it to the Chinese. The jets and the missiles and everything else the Chinese have prove this beyond any doubt. I don't need to know who's doing it at Raytheon and RTX and BAE Systems and wherever, and Lockheed Martin. It's absolutely happening. All you got to do is look at the jets online and the performance specifications of their missiles. There's only one criminal group that could pull that off in Massachusetts. There's only one criminal group strong enough to pull that off in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to be able to accomplish that. That's the Italian Mafia, Moira, with whom you have obviously conspired, given all the other pattern evidence I mentioned in the first 10 minutes of this video. You know what that means, Moira? You're a traitor to the United States, Moira. That's right. These people across the street who are trying to make it appear like they love their daughter when they don't, they're traitors to the United States of America. And so is Rich Bebo, and so is Barbara Toscano. And you murdered Dad to shut him up about it. And you're trying to coerce me and extort me or provoke me into committing some act you can falsely say is a crime in order to cover it up. Moira,